All right, you're good to go unless I jump on and say otherwise.
Okay. All
Have
right.
a great meeting.
Yeah, so welcome to everybody to our meeting this morning, and thanks for joining us. The interest, not a terribly long agenda, but it's fairly interesting, and there's a lot to go through. As long as, is there any additions or anything anybody would like to add to the agenda at this point, or we're all good? All right, so we will jump right in, and Culture Days is the first item that I have on my list. So Amanda, if you can go ahead with that. Still on mute.
Thank you. Let me get myself sharing my screen here. I'm just getting back into, we've been kind of doing some in-person meetings here with our team, which has been quite nice, but it's been a while since I've used Zoom. Just get everything up and running here.
I'll turn off my microphone. Yeah, I might.
Sorry, can you define in person? I don't know that. I don't know what that is.
It's not a familiar term, I know. Okay. All right. Okay, I can see Jerry. Jerry, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see the Culture Days screen? Perfect. All right, great. So we'll just jump right in here. So we are really excited to celebrate Culture Days again this year. It's actually a national celebration. So Culture Days is hosted by a national organization. We also have an Ontario branch of Culture Days, something that happens across Canada at the same time every year. Traditionally, it's been the last 3 days in September or the last weekend in September. And the whole purpose of the event is for people to attend free participatory arts and culture events. So they can be in person or online. The programs invite the public to get hands-on and behind the scenes to highlight the importance of arts and culture in our communities. This year, the event is taking place from September 23rd to October 16th. So through the pandemic, they actually extended the event to be a 4-week program from the end of September to the end of October, which was great because we were able to do lots of virtual, lots of passive programming, self-guided programming. But as we are getting back to, again, this wild idea of in-person stuff, it becomes a lot harder to program 4 weeks of programming. So we're looking forward to seeing what we can do with this slightly truncated but still extended version of Culture Days, September 23rd to October 16th. They do announce a theme every year. They haven't announced that theme yet, but the national mission for the event is about sparking creativity, building community, and celebrating nationally. So we do get support from the provincial and national organizations with our marketing. They do fantastic online marketing, and in the past they've done print guides. And any events that they promote must be participatory, must take place during the scheduled dates of the event, must be free to the general public, and must be hosted by a Canadian-based organization or individual. Some of our past programming that we've had, Riding Along, Singing a Song, which has seen the Barrie Folk Society members participate by performing on city buses or in the transit terminal. Conduct Us, which has seen the Huronia Symphony Orchestra actually welcome people to try out their hand at conducting, either in at the Georgian Mall or in the libraries. Carnegie Days, which has been a regular festival that the McLaren has celebrated in the past, celebrating their connection as being a former Carnegie Library. We used to host a large busker festival in Meridian Place, well, prior to Meridian Place in Memorial Square. We even had a Battle of the Bands and a drum solo competition in the past. And most recently, we streamed lots and lots and lots of content. So that photo there is from when we had the Rob Watts Band performing at MTAV Studios. Some of our annual programming that we bring back every year. We engage our artists that are in the Emerging Artists Program with OMCI as buskers to perform throughout downtown. We have walking tours, either hosted by our town crier or related to public art. We've had all kinds of workshops. We usually do a few workshops every year. Theater by the Bay hosts a 24-hour playwriting contest. We do a flag raising. The Steel Spirit is a 2-month exhibition of artwork in City Hall by first responders and organized by a contact of ours out at Base Borden. And we do calls for programming. So we invite various businesses, organizations, and individuals to submit proposals for hosting an activity. And we can often provide an honorarium to them in order to provide that programming. Some of our partners that we've had in the past are the Barrie Public Library, the McLaren Arts Center, the Farmers Market, Heritage Barrie, Barrie Public Art Committee, Downtown Barrie, and Tourism Barrie. And that's just to name a few. We've also worked with Georgian College. Some of our plans for 2022, we will once again do a call for programming, looking for venues, looking for still some sort of virtual or self-guided experiences, and also for programming, things people might want to have take place, say on Meridian Place, should we be able to book it for one of the weekends. We may be able to host activities in the city facilities since we are getting into October. The weather doesn't always participate the way we'd like it to or cooperate the way we'd like it to. The National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is on September 30th, so that falls smack dab in the middle of that programming. We hope to partner with existing events or campaigns, so if there's anything going on at that time that we can pull in as part of our programming, we do that. And if the Arts Advisory Committee would like to be involved, we absolutely encourage that. So thank you for your time. There's one of our workshops we did to put painting mandala rocks. Does anybody have any questions?
Janet, I saw you've had your hand up for a little while, so if you can go ahead.
You're on mute.
I'm sorry, Greg, my hand's up. I've had surgery, so I have to keep my hand up. I'll click. They say you have to keep it above your heart. So I'm trying to keep it out of the picture, but you see my Band-Aid, so that's why I don't really have a hand up. I'll try to go through the normal processes.
No, yeah, just to flag it. I know it's when you do the share screen things, it's hard for everybody to see, so I just caught it there. I figured maybe seeing the hand.
Yeah,
so
I was thinking you should kind of keep that out of there, but
it's all right as long as. Now that we know it's not a problem. So.
I'm not a persistent complainer, not today anyway.
All right, thanks. So there's no questions from Janet at the moment. Anybody else have any questions for Amanda regarding the presentation itself, first of all?
I see Scott has his hand up first. So
good.
Yeah, Ian and I sometimes play Family Feud. We try to get into the questions. Just you said the Arts Advisory, so this committee being involved in it, is there any concept of what we want to do or what our involvement is?
I can kind of provide you a little bit of background. So the Barrie Arts Committee, which was very different than this committee, but they did still sort of represent artists in Barrie. They once hosted, what could you call it? It was sort of like a little bit of a mini vendor market, kind of networking event for artists who also sort of had businesses that maybe had something they wanted to sell at the 5 Points Theater. You could do it. They've also hosted artist talks. So like something like that might engage the sector, that might have a sort of a larger vision behind it. Maybe you want to, again, talk about populating what the committee might do in future. You might want to, again, have something like a social event, just something to bring the sector together to chat and to share ideas. But again, I mean, if the committee wanted to actually like host programming, that could be something as well. It's the nice thing about Culture Days is it really can take any shape or form because it's really just about engaging people in unique cultural experiences.
Thank you. And Ian, you had your hand next, I think.
yeah, I know that Culture Days operates based on like applications. You have to sort of apply for funding, which is then dispersed amongst the various projects. Has that application been done, or is that going to be done?
We haven't put it out. We haven't put the call out yet. It'll be coming.
Okay.
Soon.
Okay, cool. Great.
Keep an eye.
Just curious about that.
Yeah.
And then you also mentioned potentially partnering with events that are going on at that time. How might for our viewers, how might someone apply for that, or what are there any specific criteria? Because I know obviously the programming is sort of meant to be tied to the theme in some way.
Right.
Could you speak to that a bit?
Yeah. So, I mean, an example I would say is just in sort of our promotions and how we kind of operate the website and how we share information. You know, we might have sort of like the city programming, but then we might say partner programming. So the Barrie Film Festival has sort of shuffled their dates around. So if the film festival dates align with Culture Days, even though it's not free and open to the public, it can still be promoted through the City of Barrie's promotions as a sort of a partner event, just as knowing that anything related to culture, we're probably going to want to promote and share. Of course, if an organization is working on something that they want to tie into this theme and come to us for funding, they can do that. But if there's something that we just want to promote as part of that bigger stretch of time, then we can do that independently. And all it takes is the organization reaching out and saying, hey, do you want to add this to your listings on your website? And we're usually happy to do that.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Janet, I believe you were next.
You know, we did something that was very successful with public art. Like, I'm all about simple and not costing a lot of money. We did sort of a survey with public art. We had a map of Barrie, and then we had people pinpoint where they wanted to put public art. So I'm wondering, on the same vein, and the after part could be laborious, and this is just an idea, we could morph into anything. But do you think it would be really interesting to know, if you had a list of what you thought were the cultural organizations, how many people actually know them and have participated in them? So is there something whereby if you went to, because Open Air Dunlop must be being held during Culture Days, correct?
I think they're going into September. I'll have to double check that, but we have already kind of flagged that we would like to try and maybe do one Culture Days Saturday in Meridian Place.
Right.
So, but that would be a great.
Is there some kind of capture we could do there with the volume of people that go up? Is it, you know, a bunch of sheets, which I'd be happy to go through, you know, which organizations do you know? How many times have you gone to their events? You know, and a number, like just something simple where we kind of capture data, because I think data is important, and it's simple. Like, yes, we can do a speaker and get our profile that way, but it would be really interesting to know, of those people that say came to Culture Days, came to whatever, you know, how many of things do they go to a year of these organizations? And maybe there's, I don't know what the list would be. Would it be 20? You know, but I think it's worth a canvas, and then having it come back and have a look and say, okay, this is what people know about, this is what people don't know about. I don't know. They seem to go more to music. That's an interest. I think it's worth looking at.
That's a really interesting idea. And I mean, I think something like that could pre-populate some of the work that we think might be happening next year around a culture plan. So I think that's really interesting.
All right.
I'm making a note. Thank you.
Jerry, you had your hand up, and then Councilor Riedman, I believe you did as well. So
yeah, just one observation. I guess I look at culture very broadly, and I always look at the multicultural aspect of Canada. Is there any efforts made to have people represent the cultures of where they came from? You know, I look around the face of Barrie, and the face of Barrie has changed dramatically in the 30 years that I've been here. Is there an outreach to, say, the different cultural communities to say, hey, you know, we have this space. If you'd like to highlight or showcase your culture, it's open to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for addressing that, Jerry, because I don't think any of my photos really address that. But we have in the past, and especially the last couple of years, have really worked at our sort of call out lists to make sure that we're engaging the various organizations that have and either whether it's like through performance, through visual arts, something that they can share. So we have had the Barrie Indian Association participate. We've had Uplift Black, Making Change, the Barrie Native Friendship Center, and the Bangor crew all participate in previous events. And we do, anyone who's participated in previous Culture Days automatically goes on to the next Culture Days list as an opportunity to engage again. And then we've continued to do a broad call out as well through the city's social media channels and newsletters. So yeah, absolutely. The intention is to continue to celebrate culture as a heritage piece as well as an arts piece.
all right, great. Councilor Rima,
Yeah, I was just going to add that we've got the Barrie Arts Alliance now, so they probably a group that would be very good to contact as well.
Okay.
All right, Scott.
And also, if we're going to use the Marshall newsletter as we think we should, that might be a good venue also.
For sharing out the call, absolutely.
All right, so is there any other questions or comments for Amanda on that particular item at the moment? Doesn't look like it, but it's probably a good thing for us to put some thought into for the next meeting. It sounds like a long way away, but it's only a few months. It comes up really, really fast. So if we're going to be involved in any way, the cultural issue might be, or the cultural option might be something that we could pursue as a group, and also maybe some roundtables or some arts development groups, something like that we can pursue as an advisory committee. But if we can kind of put some thought into what we want to do or how we want to be involved, and maybe go into a bit more discussion on that next month, or even maybe some of this stuff could probably have to be done by a subcommittee or something like that if we get to do too many different projects, but that can be something to think about as well, maybe getting some people together to kind of manage that. But thanks for that, Amanda. Appreciate it. And you're next as well. So we have in-person cultural socials. So it's what you get for missing a meeting, right? You're going to be
Yeah,
this one,
exactly. So we've got a really fun event coming up Wednesday, June 8th starting at 6 p.m., probably end before 9. It's at the Sandbox Center. We're hosting our spring culture social event. So it's sort of an informal coming out party for the two culture groups at the City of Barrie, an opportunity for us to remind the community of which department does what and who we are, and talk about some of the big wins that we've had. Believe it or not, there have been some big wins over the last 2 years, and also talk about opportunities for moving forward. So we've got a bit of a rough agenda worked out. We're still working through that. We're going to have cash bar, probably the prepackaged hors d'oeuvres, since we're still kind of in the pandemic situation. We're going to have some fun activities and some calls for kind of information. So, like that little bit of that sort of data capture that Janet was already talking about as well. So we wanted to give the opportunity, in case the Arts Advisory wanted to say a couple of words, just introduce yourselves. We could also just tie in a welcome or an introduction as part of our presentations as well. But it's really just meant to be a fun catch up. Everyone can bring out their pamphlets for any programming they have coming up that they want to share. We'll be launching the nominations for the Barrie Arts Awards at that event. We'll probably be doing a presentation on public art. So it could be a great opportunity for the committee to kind of put some names to faces. I expect that some of the people at the table will be there regardless, representing their other organizations, or just because you're active in the culture scene. But there will be a formal invitation coming your way. I'll send it through Brandy. But I guess this would probably be the opportunity for the group to decide if you want to have a few words, or if you just want us to address you as part of our presentation at the event. And I guess decide if somebody will be there representing, or if there'll be a few of you there. So Wednesday, June 8th at the Sandbox at 6 p.m.
Yeah, whether we speak or not, there should definitely be somebody there, at least 1 or 2 people representing the committee for sure, I would think. I actually have surgery the day before, so it's unlikely that I'm going to, I won't be around. I won't be up at that point. So, but it would be great to have 1 or 2 people there that are the formal, recognized kind of representatives that whether you say anything or not, we should at least have somebody that people can go to if they have questions or comments or want to contribute in any way. So we should at least have that. So I don't know if any of you are planning on going, if anybody can kind of volunteer for that at this point. So it's only 3 weeks away, so we probably want to nail that down now.
Yeah, I'll be going on behalf of Theatre by the Bay, so I'll be there. Yeah.
Right. And are you comfortable if we note that you're also on the committee and one of the people to approach for that?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine.
And I should be able to make it, because as chair of public art, I probably would like to be there if they're presenting about public art.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you both. Yeah, so if you want to put some thoughts to whether or not you want to say anything, or if you just want us to introduce you, and I can kind of scan the room, make sure I introduce anybody that's there, we can do it that way as well. But yeah, it's really meant to be a fun event to get everybody together in a room, and to get us back to those fun sparking moments where you get a bunch of people together and amazing things happen, and you get to find out about all the amazing things that we've got coming up. So we're really looking forward to it.
Excellent. All right, and thank you very much for that as well, Amanda. Is there any further questions on that issue at all? Any other questions for Amanda or at this point? Okay, it doesn't look like it. So anyways, I just wanted to sidestep for 1 second. Just say, Carol Ann, I've been remiss in welcoming you because I believe this is the first meeting that you've made, at least the first one that I've been here that you had. So welcome, and thanks for joining us. So
thank you, Greg. Happy to be here with everybody.
Does everybody know what Carol Ann does?
did you want to take just a second, Carol Ann? Are you comfortable? I know we didn't kind of let us know who you're representing, why you're here.
Absolutely. So to be fair to everyone, I requested to be part of this meeting as Amanda and I developed team culture at the City of Barrie. I wanted to get a firsthand opportunity to hear what everyone is up to in the arts community, although I am the public art coordinator with the city. So my focus is the development of the public art program and public art projects. I work closely with Amanda as team culture. I also work with Janet Lougheed, who, as you know, sits as chair of the Volunteer Public Art Committee. And I've been with the city almost a year now. June will be a year. And it's been a big year in terms of really moving the Dell forward with our public art program and building it out and giving it some profile and professionalizing the way that we work. And we're just getting started. So it's very exciting. And I'm so pleased to be formally part of the arts community in Barrie and hear from all of you at this meeting. And I look forward to the social in June as well to meet more folks from other areas of culture. So thank you very much.
All right, great. Thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate the fact that you're here. So we will move on then to the next item on the agenda, which is our branding strategy and fundraising, and how we'd like to proceed with that. There was some discussion last time on that. No final firm decisions necessarily about proceeding. Just wondering if anybody wanted to kind of speak up on that first. I know, Janet, you had a lot of ideas last time. Did you want to kind of take the lead, or anybody want to?
I mean, I just said you have to go to the community and find out. We have to do something. Like everything I suggest is very basic, and sometimes it gets overlooked because people think they know what people want, but they actually don't know until they ask them. And also by going to people and asking them, they feel valued, and it also gets them on your team, and they also become a resource for you, correct? So, if there's something we could do where we could, I mean, it can be done in a large forum where we hold an event, and the invitations go out through the cultural organizations. We'd like your feedback. We have a presentation. It can be done in very small groups, but I think some form of actually talking to the community and getting feedback, but obviously a very tight structure that allows us to get the information that we want.
Okay. Anybody else on how we want to proceed as far as branding and fundraising and community outreach? Kind of just wondering a little bit if this is something that we should maybe get a couple people together outside the larger committee to kind of go through and hash out some strategies and stuff like that. Something like this is going to go through a lot of details. If we try to run, it may be best if a number of us report back to the committee regarding how we would like to proceed and get some feedback. Sometimes things like this can take hours and hours and hours when we get into an actual meeting without a lot of formal work actually being done. So I'm wondering if anybody's, what people think about maybe kind of proceeding along those lines, if that makes sense to anybody.
I think that's a good idea, Greg. And also, I think an important person to be part of this, hate to give you more work, Amanda, but you've run so many different kinds of events, like, broad-based calls, private events through your job, or when we did have culture, there were a lot of reach out type events, and you'll know what is successful and what's not. Because I think what we don't want to do is come together, get an idea that there's somewhere somebody knows that this is just doesn't work. So it would be good to have you on the committee. It's not to be onerous or anything, or maybe we put ideas together and then we call you in and say, what has worked for the city before? What do you think will have the most success with? Because I don't like to remake I like to remake old ideas. I don't like to make new ideas because there aren't any really.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
really, I'm happy to help. If we feel like we want to maybe pull in somebody from the city's Access Ferry team, sort of the communications piece around some of that as well, I can find out through Brandy what that process is. But yeah, as far as that goes, I'm happy to help.
that would be great. Is this something that, so Janet, are you willing to be a part of that?
Yeah, I have I'm a bit overcommitted volunteer-wise, but I certainly can meet and discuss opportunities and ideas.
Okay. Is there anybody else I'd like to be? I'll be part of that for sure. That'd be fun. Be an interesting exercise. Is there anybody else that kind of like to get together? I think 4 or 5 people would be ideal to kind of sit down and hash out some ideas.
Can I suggest something?
Go ahead, Jen.
I'd like to think that we might find 1 or 2 people from the community that might help. Like, why don't we broaden our audience? Like, we could ask, I'll think about it. You probably have people, but maybe a couple people that have an interest. So we have not only ourselves and are taking up all our community people, but actually a couple of people, just 4, like 2 other people outside the community that we think could have input. Like if it's branding strategy, you can talk to somebody like Claudine Benoit. She's worked in design and they've done a great job with their brand, and she with the Barrie Film Festival. And I know she would probably share time with us. Ian, I don't know what you've done around that, but I'm just thinking, why don't we grab 2 communications branding, maybe businesses that we recognize or know, and bring them into a meeting and ask, how would you start this? What do you think? And then we get Amanda's, maybe just an overall view. Is a broad-based approach to something the way to start it? And then we move on. But, if we broaden our little base by having committee, that people that work with us, first of all, they know we're working on something. Secondly, they're then ambassadors for what we do. And thirdly, we bring in people with expertise that I have none. And I like to get free advice.
Yeah, that would be great. And it's always great we're going to be doing a lot of different things. It's always great to bring in extra hands to help with work, especially if they have expertise in those fields. So that would be a great idea.
And it's short-ended, like it's not like 10 meetings or whatever. It could be 2 or 3 meetings just to get going and give us some input and maybe assist us later on along the way. So people are always happy to go to short-ended things. They don't want to commit to Wednesday at 4 to 6 for the next 2 years.
Right.
So there you go.
Yep. No, that would be great. So we can reach out to Claudine for sure. I can do that. If somebody else wants to do that, that's fine too. I've worked with her before on a few things, so I can do that. Any other suggestions for who might be interested in reaching out? I mean, that's not be today, but if you think of anything in the next little while, you can shoot off an email to a couple of us and we can make sure we reach out. So also a good opportunity to be, sorry, 1 second, Janet. I think this would be a really good opportunity to bring in somebody who some different cultural input as well. Maybe some people that aren't on the committee, some groups that aren't necessarily highly recognized or as visible in the community. If we can bring in some of the smaller, cultural groups, that might be a great thing too. So, Janet?
The only other thing I think, like, this is not my world, but honestly, digital marketing, social media is very big right now. Is there somebody that's kind of an expert that we know? I can find somebody, I'll call around, but it would be good because the platform we use could be on a digitized in a way that we wouldn't normally do it. Maybe there's an identity we get and it goes out, but I think that gets to a lot of people. And I think technically there are opportunities for us that I know nothing about. So I think we need somebody like that.
I don't know if this would fall under a conflict of interest or whatever, but my wife is actually a social media manager for Bush Systems. She also does work for a lot of the local theater companies in the region and stuff like that. And she's very, very qualified if we want someone who's accessible, knows the arts, and does a lot of communication work as her job.
She's not being paid and she's not getting a contract. There's no conflict.
Okay, then
Yeah.
great. Yep, she's around.
And there's
she's
no
right
contract
downstairs.
for her. Oh, the boss has got her hand up.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
I think we will need to take that back to procurement. All of the advisory groups are subject to our code of conduct and all of our policies. So regardless of whether it's a volunteer support or not, there may be some procurement. We will need to validate. I could be totally wrong, and I'm happy to be wrong, but I think we just better vet that before we undertake work and make commitment. I'll just put that on the table. And my only other thing, and I feel like I'm the fun police here, and I apologize. I do want to remind the committee, at this point, you are in effect with this current term of council. So I agree with you on populating, I think it's a great thing to start thinking about, identity and all of those pieces. But at the end of this council term, you are sort of disbanded, so to speak. And Brandy, you can tell me if I've got the proper language right on this one.
Yes,
and then
yes.
what happens with a new council is the new council determines the advisory groups they have, and then recruitment's done. So I just, in terms of investing time, resource, where do you want to best do that in the time that you have? And please, the concepts and raising the profile are all wonderful things, and I'm not trying to wreck that piece. I just wanted to put some perspective on timing, and where things sit. That's all, because there is you will go through a new recruitment process if council chooses to proceed with the advisory committee. So Brandy, did I miss anything, or am I misspeaking?
No, that's exactly it. And we both kind of jumped on to say the same thing.
Okay, no, that's great word of caution. So it's easy to forget that, especially a lot of culture groups are kind of used to working in terms of years to get things done. So it's important to keep that in mind. I saw two hands.
I have an
Janet,
idea.
I saw yours. Yeah.
I have an idea. I think even better. I think your wife is a gold mine for us, just because I think everybody could learn more about this and sort of getting broad-based awareness. I might be the only person like this. Maybe what we do, because the most important thing is if we keep it in the minutes and it's a presentation from an outside source, if we can have an outside source, then it's documented. So if none of us are here, but the advisory committee comes on, that work is documented through the minutes. And it actually, I'm always working around things, as Stephanie knows. But it's documented through the minutes. So even if we're not all here, that information is captured. And maybe we have a very small presentation at the next 3 meetings or whatever the number of meetings are, in and around this idea of branding and what you need for that. And then it's all captured. So if anybody moves ahead, it's actually in the minutes. You can read it and refer to it. It's not off-site, outside the purview of the city. I'm going to throw it out there, but.
Good. Yeah, that makes good sense. Absolutely. But again, though, before we do too much, let's Stephanie check with procurement, make sure that we're on the right track. And then as soon as we know the answer to that, then we'll move forward as quickly as we can and make sure that, we keep all those perspectives in mind as we move forward. Jerry, was it your hand that I saw up?
Just a quick comment, because I think Steph has hit it on a very important point. I think this committee should look at laying the foundations for the committee in the future. In other words, we should be looking at, if we're not here, what would be helpful for the new committee coming in, and proceed that way, but not to get too far ahead of ourselves by making commitments that we may not be in a position to enact, in fact.
No, that's a great point. All right, so we've got a good framework around that. Is there any other questions and comments on that issue before we move on to the next one? Or all right, so I think we've got, like I said, a good path to move forward with some caution on that one. Now, the next item on the agenda, staff contacts and connections. I have to admit, when I saw this on there, I wasn't 100% sure exactly where we were going on this, what we need to do. So if somebody can kind of just grab onto that and tell us exactly what we're looking for regarding the staff contacts or connections.
For myself, essentially that was a conversation at the last meeting that basically kind of came up with basically future anything, events, information, the possibility of who they might be able, you folks might be able to contact, that sort of thing. So somebody else, and I can't remember who it is, had brought this up and did want to discuss that, kind of take the lead. So it was mentioned to put it on this agenda here, which is why it's on there.
Yeah, I had the same kind of vague recollection of it, but I wasn't sure exactly where we were going as far as that goes. So it's basically putting together a list of all the people that we need to have connections to, where people can go to if they need resources, that sort of thing. Is that correct? Okay. Okay. So are there any other comments on that, or we just want to? So the city must have basically that on file already for all the positions in the city. If one of you can kind of forward the important city contacts list, maybe kind of edit it down so we can have an arts and cultural kind of list, that would be great. And then we can maybe add some community, just kind of a little bit of a brainstorming session next time to add some community members, important contacts, that sort of thing that we may want to have on hand for people. Stephanie?
Just want to confirm in terms of the contact or the contacts. So anything, so theater bookings, I've got a public art, I've got arts investment fund, where I might go, just sort of the what portfolios kind of do what and the contacts.
Yeah.
Is that sort of the lens? I think we can do that fairly easily.
Yeah,
I'm happy to put that together. I pretty much already have the truncated one that I can just add to.
Okay, great. And then if we can, and then the next time once we have that, we'll do some brainstorming, just other people that can kind of help in the community, other resources, just so that when people come to us, it can be intimidating when you have, I mean, especially having done it before. If you have an idea or something you want to do, you know where to go with it, just kind of a list that can help people out. And I think that's kind of pretty much where we're going. So if we can kind of create that, then we should be good.
Awesome.
All right, perfect. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. Next item on the agenda then is the Arts Awards updates. And of course, Amanda, we're going back to you for that.
Sorry, that was an Arts Awards update. Okay, so we are working on planning for November. We've put out a request for a venue. We're waiting to find out if that venue is going to come through, if we'll be able to make that happen. So we haven't been able to confirm the date yet, but we are going to be launching nominations in early June and making that announcement at the Culture Social event. So we will have lots of time for folks to get their nominations in. Typically nominations don't actually go out until September. So this is quite early, but I think that's important since there will be lots of things going on this summer and people will need that little bit of extra time to get their nominations together. As of right now, the plan is to proceed with our traditional categories. We are exploring ways of partnering with our other internal awards events. So we've got Mayor's Innovation Awards that we've sort of toyed with how can we make those two awards talk to each other. But otherwise, again, much like the Culture Social, we're just really excited to get the community back together, celebrating the arts and you know, having a great evening at a gala, getting everybody dressed up and enjoying some great entertainment and food and beverage. But by all means, we're still in the early stages. So if anyone has any ideas beyond what we've chatted about before, you can absolutely share.
All right, thanks, Amanda. Do we have questions or comments from anybody on that? All right, so it looks like nothing at the moment. And like Amanda said, if there's anything that comes up, just let her or somebody else know and they can bring it forward. So the Performing Arts Investment Fund update will be the next item on our agenda. Now, we actually talked a lot about this prior to this meeting. But again, we wanted to get some more thoughts and feedback from people in regards to that, as well as kind of Amanda's thoughts on, again, how that all panned out, as she wasn't here with us last time. So
I'm happy to start off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were really happy with how the program review went. So in 2021, we undertook a review of our cultural grants program. We brought on a consultant group to look at industry standards, best practices, similar communities, to review the history of our program, to consult with the various recipients and organizations who maybe have not accessed the fund. And you know, they were able to provide us with a bunch of really great recommendations, one of which was that we were desperate for a culture master plan update. So we didn't do a huge overhaul of our grants program, because we knew that without understanding where Barrie now truly feels, lives, exists within the arts and culture sector, how Barrie wants to define arts and culture, and how Barrie wants to prioritize its investment in arts and culture, we didn't want to make too many assumptions with the program. So the main factors that we were able to focus on for this year were around adjudication, communications, making the application more truncated and simplified, and focusing on making sure that the criteria and the eligibility was very clear for folks. So we made some of those changes. We did find as though the application process seemed to go fairly smoothly. The adjudicators didn't seem to have too much trouble navigating the changes. And we did absolutely find that the improvements that we made to our criteria around the eligibility and the scoring and evaluation made it much more transparent and much easier for our adjudicators to work through how they wanted to disperse the funds. So being that we were still very much in the throes of a pandemic, City Council were generous enough to provide us with an $80,000 one-time increase for 2022 to support the increased funding that we were able to share around through project and capacity building grants, as well as giving some budget increases to some of the operating grants. We saw a lot of the same players at the table, and we were able to reward those organizations who have proven to be exceptional and to have continued to improve with budget increases for their operating. We were also able to fund almost all of our project applications, which was very exciting. And we did see lots of new applicants and returning applicants come back to the table. So organizations who we hadn't seen in a few years, or organizations who hadn't applied for funding come out and apply. So we're really excited to see how that funding gets rolled out this year, and to see some of the programming that's going to come to be. There is a full list of fundees and how much everyone received, and more details about the program at barrie.ca/cultural grants if you wanted to take a peek there. But I would say that as we get our report forms out over the summer to the organizations that received funding, we will be looking to ask more than just how they use their funding, how any challenges they had, but also what their process, what they felt the process was like, and if they think there's further improvements we can make to the grants program. And we do expect that as we get ready to launch the 2023 program, we'll be working with the committee in whatever iteration that looks like, obviously based on the elections, to make sure that we're spreading the word as widely as possible to the broadest arts sector, and making sure that we're being as transparent and accessible as possible through the funding program.
Any further comments or any additional questions?
Just I guess a comment. I really liked the social media campaign about spreading the word about how much was invested into how many groups and stuff. I think those are really good things to share and get that, and help in that getting, you know, increasing awareness about the program and how valuable it is. Yeah, I mean, you know, let's keep pushing for more money for that fund and all that stuff, because obviously there's a lot of organizations that could really use it.
Thanks, Ian.
Anybody else? Comments or questions on that, Mr. Rima?
Thanks, Greg. I just had a question. Amanda, do you see any changes that you would like to make for next year? Are there any tweaks to the program that we should be thinking about?
I think for us, until we really have a broader understanding of where our culture master plan might take us, it's hard to look at, different specific questions or priorities or strategies that we would want to sort of focus the funding towards. But I would like to explore making the software that we use a little bit easier on both the applicants and the adjudicators. So that's something that I plan on tackling a little bit earlier with our folks at Apply, is what can we do to make the actual application process as streamlined as possible, because there's always funny little glitches that happen with like the document uploading and all of that kind of funny stuff. So I'm really, really looking forward to seeing the feedback that comes through from the organizations, to see if there's anything that they think we might be missing as far as questions or criteria. And I do always look forward to seeing where we're going to end up once we have a new master plan and a new vision for the next 5 to 10 years.
What is the timeline for that new master plan, Amanda?
So the plan is to put in an intake form for the 2023 budget, asking for funds. So if that's approved, we would go to market with an RFP for a consultant. And once that's sorted, then they would come on, and it would probably be the duration of the year, the remainder of the year, for all of their data collection and consultation work, with a presentation back to council. And my guess would be early 2024.
Okay.
Again, that's all pending budget.
All right, thank you. Further questions at all? The master plan is going to be a fun one for this committee, should we stay together or whatever form it takes in the future, because there's a lot that we can do to help out around that and really bring the community together, especially making sure that everybody's represented and everybody's heard from. And that's generally one of the biggest things that our role is in general anyways. So are there any additional things that anybody would like to have brought to the attention, or that people believe we should be focused on or speaking about or adding to the next agenda? Any additional information, any topics?
Sorry, are we not getting a venue update? I see that on the agenda, unless I'm wrong.
No, it's on there. I couldn't get my I couldn't get my microphone off fast enough. Yeah, somebody did request an update on the local venues.
Yeah.
So that is on there.
Okay, sorry, I my printer's broke, because I wrote it down, so I didn't, and I missed writing that down, so I skipped that. So I apologize for that. So venue update. Rob, I guess you're probably the best person to kind of start with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I didn't know if you had time to be able to get a venue update. So whatever, if you guys have time, we'll whip through it quickly. I'm going to use sort of the same format that you guys had presented to you last week or last month, pardon me, and just sort of keep updating that as we move forward. I think everybody appreciated the work that everybody put together on putting that presentation in play. And sorry, I wasn't at the meeting last month, but I know there's a lot's been going on in the theater areas, and I certainly want to share the screen. So I'm just going to whip through a very short presentation and just update you guys on some of the things that have been going on. So if I can figure out how to do this. Share. All right. What are you guys seeing at this moment?
We've got the start of the slideshow, but it hasn't started yet.
Okay, there we go. Is that it?
Got it.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate that. All right, so title bar, it's just to give you an update of what's going on in the theaters. We're going to touch base quickly on the Performing Arts Center, so we'll give you an update of what's going on with that project and the RFP. We'll talk about the Georgian Theater and the things that are happening in that space. 5 points as well. And of course, the dance pilot that we're utilizing the Eastview Arena for. And we'll touch base quickly on those types of things. So to start off, the Performing Arts Center, this is pretty well the high level discussion and surrounding the proposal that we're going to be sending out to the industry, looking for a consultant to deal with the RFP. We're hoping to issue it this week. So Stephanie and Rick and I have been working together, and thank you for Susan for helping us out getting this all organized. We're hoping to get that released this week, and it'll be on the market for 6 weeks. For approximately 6 weeks, pending on the date that we get it out. But it will be hitting the market very, very soon. Then once the information is received, we will go through the consultant proposals, we'll evaluate and award in summertime. So the project's on track. So I think that everything seems to be moving along there, and we're going to continue to make sure that that project meets the dates that we've outlined below. That, you know, we're going to be going through the draft report that will be developed by the consultant and presented to the Arts Committee. There will be all kinds of discussions with the arts community. And within the RFP, we've got a lot of criteria around the public engagement pieces and dealing with the user groups and the cultural organizations. So we've got a number of charrettes planned, lots of public engagement to ensure that we get all that feedback from everybody within that. So there's a lot of direction from the consultant to ensure that he engages all of you and all of the organizations that are involved. And then once we get through all of that, there'll be a presentation to the Arts Committee. And I think I'm probably regurgitating a lot of the stuff that you guys have already heard. But the report back to council in early 2023 is still scheduled as we've identified. So I just wanted to touch base to update you on all of that. Does anybody have any questions surrounding the PAC update? I can't see everybody, so just speak if that works. All right, so hearing none, I'll move on to the Georgian Theatre. Georgian Theatre, we're still working with the college. We are having some detailed discussions surrounding utility costs and who would be responsible for certain utility costs. So we're almost there. We've almost got this agreement plugged in, which is great. A lot of work's being done by Lauren and Paul and the college itself, Cheryl and all of her team. So lots of work being done. So we're just sort of finalizing some of the details on that. So hopefully we'll have a finalized agreement with the college early or later this month or early at the latest June. But everything seems to be going in the right direction in regards to the agreement. So in the meantime, we're just doing sort of tentative contracts with them, which is what they would normally do to anybody that was renting the spaces out. So we're just dealing with that as sort of a one-on-one basis by any of the events that we're hosting in that space. The interesting thing here is that becomes a bit of a problem, and I think we've all had this discussion before, is the Georgian College Theatre. We don't own it, unfortunately, so we have to deal with their protocols when it comes to COVID. They are still in a masking protocol to be utilized throughout their foreseeable future is what they're identifying it as. So it could be throughout the whole summer before we get out of a masking requirement to utilize that space. We are at the mercy of the college and their requirements. We've had numerous discussions with them. They understand the concern. We do meet with our user groups and explain that situation as much as we can. Obviously, as everybody is aware, we still get a little bit of negative feedback in regards to that. But unfortunately, it is something that we have to follow as we utilize that theater until the colleges lifts that mandate. Any questions in regards to the Georgian Theatre? Just quick update in regards to the work that needs to be done in those spaces. We are waiting for the agreement to be finished to be able to put any significant dollars into that space. But we are getting our approvals and our quotes done. So those are all done in regards to the curtain and the fall arrest. So we've got our got our quotes for all of that work, and we're just waiting for approval to be able to move forward. Same with the exit doors. We're just ongoing with the quotes to deal with the exit door and the roll-up door at the back. Again, that is something that we are getting quotes on and hopefully be able to move forward with in the next few weeks and few months. We will obviously do any of this work outside of the use of the theater. So we're not going to disturb or cancel any of the groups that have been utilizing the spaces. So that is something that the team has planned on specifically to ensure that they can do that. And in the meantime, they're looking at opportunities. For example, the emergency doors, we have to put extra staff members on those doors until those exit doors get fixed the way they need to be. So we're working through those nuances. But it seems to be working out because we had a good group of individuals through the theater in the last little while. We had This Is It Dance utilize the theater April 8th to the 10th. We had Music in Motion, which is obviously big time right now for dance groups. So that's been in. We also had Pigs, which is a Pink Floyd tribute. We had some dancers studio in there on May 1st, and we had a charity concert for the children of Ukraine on May 3rd. So lots of happening in that space. But you know, the interesting thing about our team is that that's just one of the spaces that they're responsible for, and they've been busting their humps to get everything done because it's been a bit of a challenge trying to get everything off the races. But they've done a great job, and those are just a portion of the events that have been done. As we move over to the 5 Points Theater, you know, a number of things that we've been doing there. I think you've been through all of the upgrades on the last presentation. So those are being utilized, the streaming opportunities, et cetera. But some of the major events that we've had in 5 Points in the last little while is Sherry Gallant. And if you weren't there, then some of you might already know that she was there because the psychic, you would know that she was there. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, sorry, bad joke. Anyway, so we had Tifton there for the Orlando show and Illuminating Conversations. And April 28th, we had the Uplift Black group there from an event from the from the Barrie Library. And May the 7th, we had a Johnny Cash tribute show that was there as well. So those were a couple great events that happened throughout the month of April and into the beginning of May. And the dance pilot at Eastview, the team worked really hard to turn this venue into something that is, you know, something that meets the needs of our dance groups. And everything that we have done so far with our dance groups and the ones that have been there, they're pretty happy with the outcome. This is a picture of what the Eastview Arena looks like for our dance groups. We put in a 30, what was it? I think it was a 32 by 54 foot stage with all the curtains and the side video screens and the lighting and everything else. So they've done a really, really good job. This was set up before we got it in. Some of the pictures that I've seen, but I didn't have a chance to get them for you, but I'll show them to you maybe at the next one, is with the people in there and the dancers on the stage. It looks fabulous. And we got some excellent feedback from the organizations. Yeah, the stage was 32 by 54 feet. There are over 6 different dance groups that are utilizing that space. Destiny Dance was the first one in the door on May 7th and 8th, and they had over 300 to 400 people on each one of those days coming to watch those shows. So that was a great booking and a great event. They were very happy. They've already rebooked for next year. They are happy with the venue and the setup. Music in Motion is another group that we had in there. They were utilizing the Georgian Theater as well as the Eastview Arena for their programs. So they had over 300 people in attendance on the May 15th. So lots of great feedback into this pilot. We've still got a couple more coming forward throughout the month of May, but so far some pretty good feedback. A lot of work to set up the stages and all the curtains and all the lighting and all of the sound, et cetera. But to be able to meet the needs of the dance groups, especially around this time, because it's so popular and they're looking for so many venues at this time of the year, by utilizing the Eastview Arena and making it look so professional, the dance groups are feeling that is a great opportunity for them. So it's been working out really, really well. Any questions about all of the things that we just touched base? I know that was quick, but I was trying to just hit the high points. But if there's any questions, I'll certainly do the best I can to answer them.
Sorry, just a point of clarity, and I apologize if this has been discussed before. So the consultant, the plan for the consultant, put that out there. You mentioned it went out on the.
It's going out this week.
It is going out this week. Okay,
Yes.
great. And was the language of that in any way like run by the Performing Arts Center task force, or is that accessible to people who wanted to take a look at it? How is that being handled?
Before we answer that, Stephanie, you had your hand up for just a second. I want to touch base with Steph because I might be wrong on those dates, and I just want to get some clarity, Steph, because I know that there might be some purchasing delays. So I just want to touch base with Steph. I saw your hand pop up.
Yeah, no. I mean, in terms of the scope of work, and maybe I'll start. Well, so you're right. I'll answer the question, Rob, that you asked first. We are just doing the final T's and I's. So we are targeting this week. It may possibly be beginning of next week, just as it goes through those final review processes. And we've got to there is a wealth of background materials. So those are our targets. So I just, and we're working very closely with Rob's team and Rick to get it out, but there may be just in that bit of process. It may not be this week, it may be beginning of next, but it is certainly in a place to go out.
Mm-hmm.
But the scope itself is built on the recommendations are from the council motion about what we were asked to do. And then looking at the design pieces, I mean, those are standard architectural things that we would require from our standard RFP piece. So, and there has been several pieces of correspondence that have come from the Arts Alliance that have also been considered. But in a nutshell, and I think that Dawn covered it in the last meeting, what the general consensus is. They certainly need to revalidate the needs with the users, the market, how that impacts the business case, how that impacts design, and then from that point, getting to concepts. But again, until it's live, we can't really, I think, speak to too much in a nitty gritty place. But that is the general purview. And Rob, I don't know if you want to add more to that.
No, I think you covered it well, Stephanie. I think that the RFP has got a lot of standard template boilerplate stuff that we have to do as a municipality to follow the rules and the requirements of us getting RFPs out to the market. So a lot of that information needs to be dealt with and dealt through our purchasing department. So all of that package that Stephanie put in, mixed in with our front ends and back ends of our boilerplate purchasing process is what makes up that whole RFP.
I just want to make one comment to Rob. I think you did an amazing job with Eastview Arena, and I think that your team should really feel proud of that, because I've been in Eastview Arena many years and it never looked like that. The other thing I think we should make note of is Claire Rietma, who's in this meeting, Carol Ann, correct me if I'm wrong, has generously supported a public art project at the Eastview Arena. And has that been installed, Carol Ann? I think the preliminary work has been done, but there is an install date. Maybe you want to let people know so they can take the opportunity, and we'll let them know at the next meeting when it is installed, to take an opportunity, because I think beautifying these spots, not only inside but outside, can really make our community take pride in their buildings. Carol Ann.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Janet. The mural is very close to coming to fruition. It's actually supposed to be going to, it's a photo-based mural that is slated to go to the printer this week, so go into production. So I'm quite optimistic that we will have a completed mural installed by the end of May. I will absolutely have the unveiling announcements sent to this group, so you can all have an opportunity to check it out once it's there.
And also maybe we'll just have a quick pick one one meeting so everybody can see it if they've not been able to see it already. So we make them go and make their friends go. Anyway, thanks again, Claire, because without the support of the counselors in these projects, they just wouldn't happen. And I think they really help our city be beautiful and also create interest and dialogue.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jen.
It was good. I had a chance to see sort of the staging or the setup that was happening at these few. I was happened to drop by at the same time that they were doing that with Carol Ann and the artist. It was great, and looking so forward to seeing that getting up there. It sounds interesting for sure.
Sorry, can I just cycle back to something Steph just said there? So part of the job of the consultant, did you say that part of their job is going to be to reevaluate the needs of the community?
Sorry, it wasn't reevaluate, but there is a set of recommendations that have come from historical work, and there's a set of recommendations that came out of the task force, and there is most certainly a delta. So we need them to go through, reconcile those, and based on their expertise and in consultation and in the with putting all the pieces together, come up with recommendation, design, and those pieces. So no, it's not a reevaluation, but there is certainly, in fairness, there has to be a validation exercise, given that we are sitting in such a delta, and the delta also results in costs. Like there's a bunch of things, right, that have to go into that conversation, but it is about looking at community need. We talk about, the population growth. So there's all those contexts that have been brought up at the task force, the Arts Alliance. So all of that is in the conversation, but being fair and transparent, that is the work that they need to do, right? Because there is a delta that has to be understood, and validated and move forward.
Sorry, what do you mean by delta?
Just a difference, right? Like we started right at 650 seats is what has been traditionally. There's a new set of recommendations that have 2 theaters at 900 and 350, if I can recall the specifics. And so we have a very big difference in what is being recommended and what is defined as the community needs. So we just need to reconcile what that is, and taking all of those things in context, that the work that the task force has done to look at user groups, and the historical, and again to come up with that ultimate solution.
Okay, and so is that I'm assuming would then be very clear in the request for proposals, that on the high end we want that 900 and 300 seat building, and then at the low end the 650 seat, or what does that look like?
So again, in terms of what can be shared at this point, I don't want to breach anything, but basically I think what everyone is looking for is an optimized solution that meets the needs of the community now and in the future, and reflects the needs of the user groups, and also looks at what a performing arts center business model should be, reflecting industry best practice, and again taking sort of a localized approach as well. So, and I know I'm being a little bit vague, but I think that I need to be, just because we don't have anything out there, but I think those are things that have been referenced in recommendations and conversations that have been. So I think that's probably a high level representation of what we're looking to achieve.
Right. It feels a little confusing, because I feel like the job of the task force was to find out what the community need was and to come up with a proposal based on what the community feels like is going to be the need of the present and future. So I'm confused as to why this, like, we seem to be backpedaling a bit in terms of what the community need looks like, when a lot of people volunteered a lot of time to actually find out what those needs are and come up with a plan.
Certainly, and I don't think that there's any intent or there's any thought to minimize that work, but we also need a set of professionals on the technical operating business side to take a look at those recommendations and how do you operationalize them into a solution. And in terms of what the task force has identified as the need, yes, we want to look at that needs, but we need them to look at with their lens and expertise to say, how can we satisfy that need based on the project that's trying to be done? And maybe there are unique solutions, maybe there are ways to look at it, maybe there are other best practices that other theaters have adopted that address those needs in ways that, and in an actual operationalized facility, that is not something that the Arts Center or the Performing Arts Task Force brought forward. Certainly, all of that work, it will be brought forward. All of that work will be considered and is part of the conversation. But it's now, how do you put that and into a place where you can operationalize it and put it into a business case or put it into a project case that says, here is, based on your land, based on community need, based on your growth, based on an operating model, here's what the whole package looks like.
And I think they've been pretty transparent in terms of what's gone on. I mean, we personally have had the reports. The reports have gone to City Council. Everybody wants what they want. But I think it is a delta. And because I dealt with the McLaren and our wants when we built that building, there were things that we did not get. And in retrospect, it would have been better if we had them, but at that point there was only so much money for them. But like the performing arts people, they are doing their very best to be transparent, but there are real restrictions that nobody wants, but they're there. And we experienced through, when we first got the McLaren quote, it was like $6.5 million or something like that. And we had 4.5. So, I think it's just being reasonable, but I do believe the task force can't meet everything that the city is going to try to meet the task force objectives, but there are real values that just are there. And I think that they're transparent enough about it. I think there's a place for argument if we don't think they are being transparent, but I do think they are being transparent. And I know with our experience with McLaren, I mean, it was an outside group of people. It's become a city building, but it wasn't at that point in time. And the city was incredibly supportive on their end, and they came up with a little more money. But we were in conversation with them constantly over the project. Joan Lehman was. And they were very good to us in terms of what went on and very transparent. So I think, Barrie hasn't changed that much. Yes, it's 20 years, but it's the same group of people. And I think you'll find that through the process, they'll do their very best. It may not be what you want. There'll be things you don't like. And there were things with the McLaren that we just didn't have that should always have put in. But money talks, and there's only was so much money to be raised. And in addition, with McLaren, we had to go out and raise another $600,000 in order to meet our objective. We did do that, but that was not easy. So, I've been through this process. I've been through all of it with the McLaren back in the 90s, and then I was the chair of the campaign, so I'm quite close to the process. I'm confident that the city's going to do their best, and I think they are being transparent. And we may not get everything we want, but there's a forum to talk about it with City Council and the task force members also. So I think we have to sit tight here and just see what they come up with.
I'm not disagreeing about that. It's just that, anyway, I just, we obviously also want to get the ball rolling and make sure that things are in place. So when I hear we have to reconsider these things that I thought the conversation had sort of moved past a little bit, it's just a little confusing. However, I totally understand that I'm new to this world, and I do have full confidence in Steph and Rob and their team, but I just I just also feel the need to fight for the work that was done by the task force, and as someone on the Arts Alliance and in someone in the performing arts community, and just as a citizen who is obviously very interested in supporting arts and culture here, I really just want to make sure that I fight for what I think is a requirement for the community.
Okay. And I second a lot of those thoughts. There was a lot of effort put in on a lot of different things. So just got to see a lot of different things came forward out of that task force. And honestly, they did a great job. So hoping to see those recommendations follow through as much as possible. Scott.
Yeah, I can see where Ian's coming from. Again, I'm new at this too, because you're going ahead and we watched the Barrie City Council, and there was a discussion on that in the end. As Mayor Lehman said, yeah, we're going to go with the 950 and the 350. So go ahead with the consultant based on that fact, and then it looks like, yeah, we're going to look at the 800 too. So it'd be just awful to have all of them do the work. And they recommend 950 and 300, and the council recommends that, and then all of a sudden, 5 years from now, we're gonna get a 600 seat theater, and there you go. So I think that's probably the confusion. That's the confusion I'm having, and maybe the same one with that Ian's having too.
Stephanie?
So I don't think that there is, and thank you for the frank discussion. I think it's important to have that. I don't think the intent is to go backwards, but the level of detailed work that has been done historically was based on the 650, right? And the task force looked at that and has made a recommendation that it isn't adequate. So the next stage is, how do you reconcile that differential and say, what is, and is this, and fine, if it's 900 and 350, then that's what the recommendation is. It's not to go back, but we have to, counsel the public in doing our own diligence around how we went from one to something else. We have to be able to have gone through a process and reconciled and have that rationale. And we also have to put on our reasonability hat too around our budget and around our capital commitments as a city as a whole. And that is something that is incumbent upon us as staff, and council will have the opportunity to make their choices. And the point is not, again, to skimp out on things. It's how do you prioritize? How do you optimize? How do you look at what the market need is and come up with a robust recommendation? And I think Rob and I are both vested, along with our teams, in getting to a right solution. We can't operate a facility effectively if it's not an optimized solution, which is the reason we came to the recommendation to say we can't proceed with the Fisher and trying to retrofit this building, because it's actually not the best functioning and it's going to compromise our ability to operate it effectively. So we are all committed to getting to a solution that works and works for everybody and gives the most back to the community and the most efficiently. That is what we as staff are incumbent and want to deliver to council and to the community. So it's not that we're looking in retrospect and saying, well, yeah, it's more understanding and understanding the evolution and how we get from X to Y and what is the rationale, and then how do we come up with that optimal solution. But the consultant, we have to consider the where we've come from to understand how we get there.
Sorry, can I just respond to that though? Because I was part of those discussions when it was about the 650 seat theater. And that was the framework under which those conversations were had back in 2016. It wasn't that we were asked, the community was asked, how many seats do we need? And we came up with this number of 650, 5 years ago or whatever now. It's just that when it was okay, we're getting rid of the Georgian, let's now imagine what a new 650 seat theater would look like. It's we did our best within that framework, but the only time that the community was really asked about the number of seats was when this task force was generated.
Which is great. And so I don't think, and I understand, the historical direction was take this existing space and turn it into something, which we could only make 650 seats happen. Completely understand that. So we are starting anew, and the task force looked at it as a new project, but we still have to, the business models, all the work that's been done was based on that 650. So all of that needs to come forward to what an optimized piece looks like. But there is still work in that initial set of, in that initial concept that also isn't wasteful. And so it has to be considered as part of the process. So I don't want us getting hamstrung in seats, because that's not I don't think that's the overall intent. It's saying, what does the community need? Yes, that is going to ultimately translate to seats, but it's not saying, why not 650 in this? It's actually saying, look at all the things that we've learned and what is the best solution, or what is the most optimal outcome configuration, however you want to put it, that looks at seats, but also looks at the types of spaces, all of the other amenities that get you to the most effective outcome. So I apologize if that came across as it's just a seat exercise. It's not. I think it's a whole encompassing piece, and understand, and I wasn't part of the project in 16, but I know where that sort of got stuck is on the 650, but that's not really the intent. And Rob, please go ahead. I'll stop talking.
Rob, yeah.
No, so Councilor Riepma had his hand up, and I don't want to stop. I think he had a point that was that he wanted to make. Councilor, did you want to say something?
Sure. This is a discussion that's happened quite a number of times. So let me just say, as a member of the task force, that the 650 number never came from sort of a community assessment in terms of how many seats we needed or what kind of theater we needed. It came from council saying, look, we have a 980 seat Fisher Auditorium. If we brought it up to current standard, how many seats would we get? What would it look like? And so they hired a consultant to do that, and the number was about 650. And that's where 650 comes from. It has nothing to do with whether Barrie needs 650 seats or 16,000 seats. So when the task force went to work, that was one of the things that we spent a lot of time on, is what is it that we really need here in the city? And that's where the task force came up with the number in the 900-950 range, plus second theater of 300, 350, and a multi-purpose space. And I think that's the first time that we've really had an assessment that says, all right, and there was a large community survey done and all that kind of thing, and we looked at other theaters in other cities. And I think that's the first time that anybody ever said, you know what, that's the kind of ballpark we should be looking at. So now, we've got a couple of consultants' reports on the former buildings. I think there's a lot of useful information in that. And as Stephanie says, we're going to build a theater, and it's a big project, and we need to know how we're going to operate it. What's the best way to do it? How do we make it work for the best of the community? So I think that's where the consultant comes in. And if the consultant comes back and says, we've looked at this thing all different ways, and we're recommending a different seat count, or we're recommending a different arrangement, or we're recommending a different way of managing this thing, I think we need to listen to it. And I think, when we come right down to it, at some point, it's going to come to council, and it's going to have a price tag attached to it. And that price tag is likely to be in the $50 million range. And that's a big hunk of money, and somebody's got to pay for it. And I think that will be the big discussion at council, and that is going to determine what we're actually going to build. I'm certainly in the camp that says, we should not be short-sighted on this. Our city is going to double in size. We're definitely, we may have to bite the bullet and spend the money. But I think there's going to be considerable discussion around the council table, but I suspect also in the community generally. And I think that's where we need this consultant's report to really, be able to give us some really good guidance on this. So that's where I see this, how this thing is going to work out in the end. But we've got, a bit of a road to hoe yet on this one before we're done.
Rob, you want to go ahead and make?
Yeah, I'm just more to summarize those comments, because I completely agree. I think there's still lots of work to be done. We are in support of the best facility we can get on that site for the money that council would allow us to do. We certainly want to do everything we can, and that's where we are. Is certainly we're not stuck at a 600 or a 650 as a staff group. We want to see big and an important theater that serves all of our existing groups, but into the future as well. So noting that, as Councillor Reitman, that we're going to have quite a large growth in population. We understand that, and we want to make sure that the project not only meets those needs of now, but for the future as well. And so, we will be as open and honest and as transparent as we can be throughout this process. If there's any questions throughout it, by all means, having this open conversation and having this dialogue is helpful for all. And I know when the consultant comes online, that'll be part of the direction, and definitely the scope of their work is to touch base with everybody, this group, BAA, all of our cultural organizations that utilize this theater, to get all of that feedback and those needs and those requirements, and see how they can come about making that happen. Because as we know, 900-seat theater with a 350-seat theater takes twice as many dressing rooms and twice as many hallways and twice as many everything else. And there's got to be some operational and efficiency kind of processes for back halls. I know that when we were visiting theaters before, is when they had two theaters, they had some problems in the hallways. So they have to be careful of that, of performers trying to get on stage and crossing over. So there's all those types of things that need to be considered throughout this. And I think that's what I'm really interested in, seeing how it gets operationalized and how we can get to that capacity that we really want to have in this municipality, with the amenities that are within it that support those seats to the best of the operation. Because it would be great to have a 900-seat theater, but you have to have trailers for dressing rooms. Like, that's not what you want, right? You want to be able to make that work, and this facility should be a gem and an excellent place of arrival for not only City of Barrie residents, but people coming from the region. And I think that's the goal of all of us, is to have something that we can be proud of when it's built and going forward. So I think that this discussion certainly helps us get there. So thank you for that, Ian.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and it's, even though the Performing Arts Center Task Force is ended, I mean, it's incumbent upon all the groups that were involved to make sure that they're speaking with one voice and have ongoing communications with each other, so we can kind of speak clearly as to why we need that particular number and why that matters. It's also, and I appreciate you bringing it forward so forcefully, Ian, too, because it's very much part of this group's task as well, to make sure that those voices are clearly heard by the city. So we appreciate that a lot. So but yeah, it's a great conversation. It's going to be really interesting to see how it happens going forward. So thank you for everybody for that. Any other comments or questions on that particular issue at the moment? Or okay, so I'm a little bit I missed that one on the agenda, so I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that I missed. Was there anything else on the agenda that I did not write down before the meeting, or have we covered it all at this point?
So there's just a notation for like an info events and updates section on the agenda, which was initially put on there, basically kind of as a roundtable sort of idea for those that represent organizations, other committees and stuff like that. And this would be the opportunity for them to be able to provide any updates of events coming up, any information they want to share, stuff like that. So
absolutely, and there's definitely I appreciate that, and always like to have that at the end of the meeting, just a chance for somebody to kind of update us and let us know what's going on. So do we have anybody that wants to say anything about what you guys are doing, or what's happening, or even questions and concerns?
Yeah, Theatre by the Bay's got a couple of things going on, of course. On May 28th, Theatre by the Bay is doing a new fundraiser in the style of the Amazing Race TV show, so teams can sign up and get pledges and do a bunch of fun activities that'll be all around Barrie and the surrounding area. just go to theaterbythebay.com/amazing for more information on that. And then in the second half of June, we're launching the Simcoe County Theater Festival, which is 6 shows by artists from across Simcoe County. Really, really excited to see the teams that are collaborating together on this. We've got, playwrights from Midland working with directors from Collingwood, featuring actors from Barrie. It's exactly what I'd hoped it would be. So we'll be releasing tickets for that in the coming weeks, and more information as well in the coming days. So stay tuned for that.
All right, excellent. Anybody else update on your organization? Amanda?
Not so much the city of Barrie, but I have been working closely with the Downtown Barrie Business Association. They are putting out a community piano later this week, and there will be a public piano party it's May 26th at 6 p.m. in Meridian Place. So if you remember from 2019, the Creative Economy Department put a community piano in Meridian Place that was fairly well received. The BIA wanted to bring one back this year, so they've undertaken the project, and it should be out later this week in the same location. So on the northeast side of the square, but for the party, they will move it to the stage. So look forward to lots of fun piano music down in Meridian Place. And if anyone plays, you should definitely get down and try it out and take some fun social media videos.
That's great. I'm happy to hear that. It was a fabulous addition. It was a lot of fun. So I'm glad that's going back in there. I'll just speak up really quickly. We've got a couple of events going on. First of all, the Central Ontario Music Council, long-awaited website, a new website was launched hopefully within about 2 hours or so, provided no last-minute technical hurdles. We use Spotify lists of all the local musicians. At this point, about 60 or 70 different recording artists from the region, from international superstars to people that have just released their first album as a 15, 16-year-old kid on a big Spotify playlist. We got blog posts from all sorts of festivals, events, different types of happenings like that around the region. So we'll put that out and try to get the word out a little bit. So check that out later today, or maybe wait till tomorrow just to be sure, but it's www.musico.ca. That's just musicco.ca. So check that out. Hopefully you'll see that. Also, we have Troubadour Music Festival that we're working on, and myself and Music Council have both been a big part of that. So we got Troubadour coming back on June 24th and 25th. We're going to take up most of Meridian Square for a couple of evenings during the weekend. We have Dwayne Gretzky headlining one night, and Natalie McMaster and her husband Donald Leahy, as well as fabulous internationally renowned fiddle player, with a whole bunch of really great supporting acts as well, from R&B to singer-songwriters. So definitely worth checking out Troubadour and seeing where that's going to. Tickets are starting to move pretty quickly. So that's what I have. Anybody else?
When is that, Greg? The Troubadour?
That is June 24th and 25th, and that'll be in Meridian Square.
Okay, thank you.
Carolyn.
Thanks, Greg. On behalf of the Barrie Public Art Committee, I want to share that we'll be launching Brightening Barriers this month. So it's the second year in a row we're running a temporary exhibition where we've commissioned local and regional artists to create original works of art for the restaurant patios on Dunlop Street and on Collier. There should be 4 installations in place for this coming weekend, Victoria Day weekend, and we expect to have 6 unique commissions by May 27th on display. So get out and check out some original art downtown, and we'll be doing some public engagement and programming in conjunction with Open Air Dunlop throughout the summer.
That's amazing. That's good. It was great last year too. So great to see that. So anything else anybody wants to bring to our attention at the moment? All right, so if not, I think we are probably all set for this meeting. If everybody's okay, if you have a motion to adjourn, we can go ahead and do that. All right, we're good. So just a quick summary, just keep in mind suggestions for culture days, ideas for culture days, as well as the Barrie Arts Awards. We want to keep that in mind. And always in the back of our heads, keep focusing on what might we be able to contribute for the culture plan, even though it's a long way away. It's a good time to just take the time to formulate in our own minds and our thoughts what we want to bring forward for that when the time is right. But other than that, thank you very much all for coming today. Appreciate seeing all of you here. So
Thanks, Greg. Thanks
all right.
all.